name's Kelly. I'm with the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization, and I'm gonna tell you guys what got me into Bigfooting. It got me into being a Bigfoot enthusiast. This is my grandpa Shaw's story. His name's Dewis Shaw. The first time he told me about this Bigfoot encounter of his, I was 8 years old, and that immediately got my attention, and I was an enthusiast ever since. I tried to get my hands on anything Bigfoot my whole life, and it really got me seriously into researching the creature. This took place at Mount St. Helens. I'm at a lake, and it's not the lake. The lake doesn't exist anymore. This happened in the 1930s when my grandfather was a young man. He was only in his early 20s. And Mount St. Helens in the early 80s, I think it's 82 or 83, it erupted, and so it rescaped the landscape there. So I apologize, the lake doesn't exist. I used to prod my grandfather all the time to tell me this story. He passed away when I was 16, so but I heard the story at least a dozen times. And it's really interesting. Well, anyway, it was a lake similar to this. He always painted a picture in my story, and I've been searching for several years for a lake that I see in my mind when he paints the story. Well, this is what happened. I'm going to kind of reenact it. Him and some friends used to go to this lake in Mount St. Helens every year. It was an annual backpacking trip. And this year there happened to be 5 of them. And they always did it in the fall. They planned it when the berries and stuff were ripe. And they would collect berries and fish while they were there. From what I understand, it took about 3 days to hike in, 3 days to hike out. So anyways, they hike in, and they get there late on the 3rd day, set up camp. And early the next morning, 3 of my grandfather's friends, they go hunting berries. My grandfather and another friend, they go fishing. He says the lake they were on was crystal clear. So he was sneaking up behind bushes similar to this and fishing over the bushes into the lake. He said he had caught several great-sized trout. And then the hair on the back of his neck started to stand up. And he got an uncomfortable feeling of being watched. And he could smell something that just reeked. And he turns and looks behind him. And at the edge of the tree line behind him, there are 3 giant hairy people. In the 30s, it wasn't in the pop culture. Nobody really knew what they were, the names. He had no idea what he was looking at. But there was 3 of them. He says the largest one was about 8 foot. The next one was about 7 foot. And he says then the smallest one was about his size. My grandfather was a big man. He was about 6'3". And he says the smallest one was his height. And it was much girthier than him. It had broader shoulders, thicker chest. It was just massive, he says. And his first instinct, he wanted to run. But he says really his only escape is where they were at, the trail that he needed to get to. I guess the vegetation and stuff was a lot thicker than what you're looking at here. But he kind of held back his panic. And it's like, okay, what are they here for? And he's like, maybe they're here for my fish. So he grabbed one of his fish and he tossed it back to him. And the smallest Bigfoots come running up to the fish. I mean, he got the fish within about 6 feet of him, but the smallest one come and collected it and took it back to the group. So he's like, oh, they're here for my fish. So he grabbed another one and threw it back. Same thing. He did it with the 3rd one. And his final fish, his 4th fish that he had caught that was in his little fish basket, I think it was one of those little wicker fishing baskets, whatever. He reaches for that 4th one and they're gone. They had disappeared into the forest. So he grabbed his stuff and he hightailed it out of there. And he went around the lake, grabbed his other buddy, and is like, "Hey, we got to get out of here." And was kind of telling him what was going on. We got to find the other guys. Well, they had to go past the camp spot that they were camping at to get to the guys hunting berries. Well, as soon as they get to camp, the three guys that were out getting berries, they're freaking out because they had saw the same three similar creatures. I mean, the same description that my grandfather gave, so I assume they seen the same creatures. So 4 out of the 5 of them had seen it, and the 5th guy, he didn't want to see it. He was pretty freaked out. So they packed up camp and got the hell out of there. I mean, they stayed one night at this lake and they left. My grandfather says it's 3 days in, 3 days out. And he says they got out of there in a day and a half. They were very motivated and freaked out to get out of there. And it wasn't until like the 50s or 60s that the coin Bigfoot come about. And then when my grandfather in the late 60s saw the Patterson-Gimlin video, he's like, "Hey, this is what I saw. I saw 3 of them." So anyway, I've heard the story probably a dozen times, and I've, pictured it over and over in my head through the years. But that's what really has gotten me into being a Bigfoot enthusiast, and I want to help identify this for science. It's a modern day mystery. I love it. There's my grandfather's story, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It really got me into Bigfooting. You guys have a great weekend.